Do you have your shadow quality set to medium? You're probably being affected by a bug that's reducing your performance without you even realizing. In most Unreal Engine games, the graphic settings are controlled by something called scalability. That's what tells the game what to change when you navigate between the different quality levels of low, medium, high, and ultra. In Oblivion Remastered, though, there's a bug specifically with the shadow quality where the game forgets to reset some fog-related settings when you go between the different qualities. Here's what happens. If you set your shadows to ultra, the game cranks up not only shadow detail, but also some fog detail. If you then go from ultra directly down to low or medium, the game reduces shadow quality, but forgets to reduce the fog quality. So even at medium, you're retaining the fog settings from ultra, and that's probably giving you less FPS than you should be. Now, if you go to high, high does reduce the fog settings as well. So if you go from ultra to high and then medium, then you will have the higher performance that's probably intended. Even worse, this also happens if you simply close and reopen the game. The fog settings equivalent to ultra are the game's defaults, so when it boots up, it starts out with those values, and because medium or low quality shadows don't change them, you're gonna keep the high quality fog equivalent to ultra, reducing your FPS. In practice, only medium quality is affected, because at low, the game completely turns off volumetric fog. As you can see from these comparisons, it doesn't really look any worse, but you can definitely see a performance improvement. Luckily, there's an easy fix. All you have to do is add the missing settings to your Scalability.ini file in the game's configuration folder. This makes sure the fog settings actually change when you change shadow quality, and also makes sure the right values are applied every time the game launches. It's a small tweak, but it can give you a significant performance boost. There's a link in the description where you can download this tweaked scalability file and then just paste it into the game's config folder. Or you can manually type what you're seeing on screen right now into the file that already exists there. If you have other mods that change this file, you're going to have to manually type this in to avoid conflicts. If that's all you needed to know, feel free to close the video now. On the other hand, if you're interested in a slightly more technical deep dive, feel free to stick around. Let's take a closer look at what's happening by using the in-game console. You can open it by using the tilde key. It should look something like this. And here we can type all sorts of commands, similar ones to what you saw on the scalability file, to check the values that the game is using behind the scenes. For example, for shadow quality, we can type sg.shadowQuality. This is basically the same thing that the game uses when you're changing shadow quality through the options menu. And if you type a question mark after this command and you press enter, it's going to give you a nice helpful description of what this command does. So SG stands for scalability group, and if you press dot, you can see all the options that exist underneath that category, and it's going to be pretty much what you can see in the options menu as well. So in this case we want shadow quality. You just see that it has 4 different levels, 0 for low, 1 for medium, 2 for high, 3 for epic, which in the options it's called ultra, and that it also has a level 4 which isn't available in the game's options, which is called cinematic. So in this case we only care about the first 3, and we can set it to one of those. Let's set it to ultra right now, which would be level 3. And now, because I've tested this a bunch, I know that this command is changing the volumetric fog, GridSizeZ. It's been set to 128, and it's also setting the GridPixelSize to 8. So if you change the shadow quality down to 2, which is high, and you check these grid sizes again, you can see that they're different. It's setting the pixel size to 16 and the size Z to 64. So I'm gonna set the shadow quality to ultra and check the fog values. Then I'm gonna set it to medium and check the values again. They stay the same. I'm gonna set it to low and check the values again. They also stay the same. I'm gonna set it to high, and now they changed. So they only change when you go to high or ultra. So now I'm at high with 64 and 16, and I go to medium, they stay 64 and 16, and I go to low, they stay 64 and 16. So as you can see, they only change on ultra and high, and all the other quality levels keep the last value that you have. And the unfortunate thing, like I said previously, is that when you launch the game, it by default comes with the same values that it has on ultra. Let's actually test that out. So right now I chose medium quality and the values are 16 and 64. So let's exit the game, open it back up and see what values it has. So even without going inside the game, I can check these values and I can already see that they're wrong. Even though we are at shadow quality 1, which is medium, it still keeps the fog values from ultra. But now, if we paste our settings into the scalability file and we launch the game again, we can check that the values are now correct. Let's have a look at how the files with the .ini or .ini extension work. The way Unreal Engine handles .ini or .ini files, I'm gonna keep saying .ini, not from .ini and .outi, but because .ini stands for initialization. Please try to enjoy all quality settings equally. So the way Unreal Engine handles .ini files is in 3 phases. First, there's the base file. In our case, we're talking about scalability, so let's say the base scalability file. And this contains engine defaults. Developers usually don't mess with this. And then on the second level, there's the default scalability file. And this one contains project-specific defaults. And this is where the developers change or add different settings that they feel are appropriate to their particular game. And these two are hidden from us they are included in the game, but they are hidden. They are probably compiled into the game's executable or just changed into some other format, but they are not visible to us and we can't change them. And then on the third level, there's the scalability file, which is the one that you can find after you install and run the game in the saves folder. And the way these 3 files work together is that they basically add up changes in each level from top to bottom. So it starts out with the base settings, and then anything that's included in the default either adds or changes existing things from the previous one, and then lastly, you have your own scalability file, which also adds or changes things in the previous 2 files. What I believe happened to cause this bug is that the developers, in the default scalability file, added these volumetric fog settings changes to shadow quality ultra and high, but they forgot to add any fog settings changes to levels medium and low, which means that whenever you change to those settings, nothing happens to the fog. Whatever was previously there just sticks. So by adding the fog settings ourselves to levels medium and low, we are telling the game to apply the correct fog settings even at those levels that previously did nothing to the fog. And if you're already using an Engine.ini mod that changes these values at game startup, you already have most of the issue fixed. However, unless you also change them in the scalability file, if you scroll through the options in the way that we saw at the start of the video by going through ultra and then low and then medium, you're still going to be affected by this. Whereas if you tweak the scalability file, it's going to fix the problem in all cases. It's quite possible that there's other settings that are having unintended side effects like this, because I've read many times about people claiming that changing your graphics options inside the game causes instability, and you should always exit out into the main menu or even close the game entirely and reopen it. Maybe this is why, is that the developers added a bunch of options only to some of the quality levels, but not all, and this causes inconsistencies with the graphics settings, which kind of get reset when you opened up the game. They may not actually be resetting in the way that was intended, but they are resetting in some way. So that's all for this video. Thanks for sticking around until the end, and I hope to see you again in the next one.